Welcome back. I've got Professor MS Rao on the line. Professor, how are you?
Fine, fine. I'm doing good. How are you, Michael?
I am great. Been looking forward to this. We're both part of Thinkers 360, which is how I think we originally connected.
Yeah.
But then digging deeper into your work, especially with a couple of your best-selling books, I thought it'd be perfect to have you on on the show, especially at this time that the world is in the middle of a pandemic. So let's talk about the earlier book first, and then we're going to talk about the new release that talks about COVID-19. So let's talk about your book, See the Light in You, and what that book's about, and how timely it is, actually, even with your other book as well. But let's talk about See the Light in You. So tell us a little bit about the book and why you wrote it.
This is the book, See the Light in You, for which His Holiness Dalai Lama has written a foreword. And this is one of my favorite books. And I have dedicated this book to Vice President of India, Mr. M. Venkaiah Naidu. So this book talks about mindfulness, spiritualism, wellness, and life leadership. Why I have written this book is that globally people have several challenges like they are getting depression, anxiety, loneliness, and suicides are rising, families are breaking up, and wife and husband are getting divorced. So many issues are cropped up. So I thought, why not to write a book on mindfulness? Usually, I wrote books on leadership, executive education, executive coaching, students, and personal development. So I thought, why not to explore a new area that is mindfulness? So then I wrote this book some 2 years back. Then I approached His Holiness Dalai Lama, the Nobel laureate, with a request to write a foreword, and he's very kind, and he has written a foreword for this book. So this book talks about mindfulness, how to live in the present without bothering about the past, and without thinking too much about the future, because we can't predict future. What happens next, nobody knows. So the objective of this book is to learn to live in the present, which is required. That's the basic objective of writing this book. Then there are several challenges globally, like depression, anxiety, all those things are happening. So I have written this book, and this book talks about philanthropy, non-profits, how to add value to the world, volunteerism, and how to lead life with purpose and meaning. People are running behind money; they are running behind material wealth. So material is required, no doubt, but at the same time, we need to focus on uh, happiness. And so this book says that happiness lies within. So people, across the world, they are searching for stones, leaving gems at home. So we have gems within us. We ignore our own inner gems and search for stones outside. So this book concludes with a message of uh, health first, education second, and wealth third. So we need to take care of our health. Only when we are healthy, we'll be able to focus on education. When we have good education, we'll be able to generate wealth. So this is the basic message this book conveys. And I know that you are expert in burnout, that's stress and burnout, and you are very strong, and you are a very renowned person in the area of burnout. So this book talks about stress, burnout, how to minimize all those things. This book talks about.
Yeah, one of the things I really enjoyed about the book is how it approaches leadership from all kinds of different things, a wholeness view, and not just your typical what you see in a lot of leadership books, which are great books, but they tend to be very narrow focused on a particular thing, where this book takes the leader and basically does a 360 type of approach in every aspect of life, and following the principles and the guidance and everything that's in it, it will definitely improve someone's life, make them a better leader, not only of the organizations that they run, but a leader of their own life. And that's one of the things that jumped out at me at this book was, how much leadership gold was in this book as far as how to properly lead your life. Because if you went to the bookstore and you see this book, it not only would it belong in the leadership book, but it also belong in the health and wellness and the self-care. It's one of those books that I don't want to say it's hard to classify, but it could be shown or listed in several departments of a bookstore because it touches on so many different things.
Yeah. And this book, as you mentioned, I have written one more book titled Self-Care. That is purely from the perspective of health and which has not been published. In fact, I have written 60 books, 49 books have been published. So 11 books are yet to be published. So out of those 11 books, one more book emphasizes purely from the perspective of self-care. Because I am from a military background. I served in the Indian Air Force. I have that military background and I hit gym every day. And I take care of my health. I'm a fitness freak. I go to gym every day. I walk 1 hour to gym and come back. Then 1 hour I do heavy workout in the gym. So 2 hours I use for my physical fitness because I served in the Indian Air Force, a military organization. So one more book is going to come up that is on self-care. It would take time, maybe a year or 2 years it would take. And let me add one more thing. Recently, my book on COVID-19 has been published. I'll show you the book. So this is the book on COVID-19, Human Search for Humanity. So this book was published around a month ago. And this book talks about COVID-19 pandemic and what steps to take and how the technology has connected people. And this book conveys the message of emphasizing humility, humanity, and hope. Because every book of mine conveys some message. So, for instance, See the Light in You is the book in that, the message is health first, education second, and wealth third. So, in this book, the message at the end of the book is emphasize humanity, humility, and hope.
And it's such a timely book too, because right now across the globe, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, there are many people that are really having a difficult time with this pandemic, not just from a health standpoint, from a physical health, but from a mental health, anxiety, stress, depression, mourning, a sense of loss, because there have been significant losses, not just of people, but the loss of the ability to do things that we haven't been able to do for a few months. For many people, this feels like it's been going on for years, and it's only been going on, from 6 months to 9 months, depending on what part of the world you're in, maybe a little bit longer, but it has not been, in the grand scheme of things, a very long period of time. But the impact that it's had on people is amazing. And I think even after we get to the next normal and things start returning to a more normalized state where we may not need to wear masks and be keeping ourselves distant from other people, I think the long-term trauma that's been caused by this pandemic is going to go on for a long time. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on some things that people could do right now to help them prevent from having to experience that long-term trauma.
So this book I have written during the global lockdown, when the World Health Organization has declared COVID-19 as a pandemic, and many countries, they have locked down to prevent the spread of this pandemic. So basically, I am an author, and because of the global lockdown, I stayed at home only, and I became, in fact, more creative and productive during the global lockdown because I didn't go outside. I was confined to home. So I wanted to educate and enlighten people about the COVID-19. So I posted several articles on my blog to educate people because people were under panic at that time when it was declared as a pandemic. So I posted some articles on my blog and shared my knowledge free with the world. Then I wrote a research paper on COVID-19, and it was published by an international journal. So then I got motivated. Why not to write a book on COVID-19? And then within a span of 2 months, I completed the manuscript, approached the publisher. Publisher took my manuscript very happily, and it has been published. This is the first time in my life, very short span, I have completed a book. Within 2 months, I completed this book because I was at home. I became more creative and more imaginative. Because I was due to the lockdown, I was at home. I couldn't go out. That was one thing, and my intention was to share the correct information about COVID-19 because people were under panic across the world. So I started sharing my knowledge. Then I wrote a research paper. It was published. Then I thought, why not to convert into a book? Then I have written a book, Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning. I like that book very much. So. Similarly, I thought, why not to write a book to inspire humanity? So then I have written. This book talks about COVID-19, how it started, what steps we have to take, and how the economy will be in the post-COVID scenario, how companies have handled this crisis, and how to prepare for the next pandemics, and how the technology has helped connect people across the world. Because of COVID, people died. It was a threat, but it's also an opportunity for the people across the world because people started realizing what is their true passion, and they started searching meaning for their life because life is very short. It can be cut short at any time. Okay, how fragile the lives are. The COVID-19 has started. And also, COVID-19 is like a tumble that made us humble. So people are connected. That we are all human beings. There's a connectivity that we are all human beings, and they started emphasizing humanity. Second thing, people have become humble. Why? Because coronavirus can attack even rich person or poor person, rich country or poor country. So there is no discrimination. Okay, so it can attack anyone. So people started realizing that we should stay grounded, and people started realizing what we should focus. That means people started focusing more. Similarly, the global organizations they started trimming everything because they have become smarter, slimmer, and agile. They started cutting their fat because of the coronavirus. They have to be more agile. So like that, organizationally things are going in a right way, and individually people started focusing on their purpose. They started leading a more meaningful life. So overall, although this pandemic has costed the lives of people across the world, it has opened the eyes of the people to pursue our passions, lead our lives with purpose and meaning.
I love what you said a couple of moments ago about how you were able to get this book out so quickly is because you were home and you could focus on things, and all the creativity and clarity came about. And that's something that I really preach with people when they're fighting burnout and they're trying to get to a state where they're not burned out, is you need to have quiet space in your life where you can sit and reflect and let the creativity come to you, because it wants to. The better ways to do things, clarity, and in how you look at things in life and how to navigate through challenging times. Those thoughts and patterns come to you, but if you have so much noise and you're stressed, and you're not going to hear it, you're not going to see it, even though it could be right in front of you. So the fact that you were home, you said, okay, here I am, and you said, I'm going to get a book out and to go from a concept in your mind to say, I'm going to write this book, to all the research that you did, to having it come out in such a short time frame is, I mean, it's a great example of what can happen if you can deep focus on things and have the clarity and allow, the creativity to come to you and be quiet enough and calm enough to be able to do it. And that's where the meditation comes in and taking care of yourself. So all the things that you've written about and write about all come to fruition, and you actually demonstrate in your own works how that looks and what you can accomplish.
Yeah, like you said.
So if there was one bit of advice you would give to up and coming leaders or leaders that have been around for quite some time and they're struggling right now with leading their organizations and maybe their families or whatnot, what are some things you would tell them to do over the next few weeks that can help make their lives a little bit easier?
It's very easy. See, COVID-19 is a pandemic. My message to people across the world is this too shall pass. That's one thing. Secondly, we should prepare for more such pandemics. And this pandemic has opened the eyes to focus on climate change, because climate change is a threat. At any time, we are going to have a major challenge. So we should start focus on climate change, because that is visible. Yes, after 50 years or after 100 years, definitely, if we don't take proper steps now, it's very difficult for humans to survive. So the message out of this COVID-19 is that for leaders or people across the world is very clear. First thing is, this pandemic will go away like anything else, because we human beings are very powerful. We have the power of imagination. We have overcome several challenges in the past, like Spanish flu, so many smallpox, all those things. We have come out of it. So definitely we will come out of this challenge very soon, and I'm optimistic that vaccine will come very soon. And in some countries claim that vaccine has come. So vaccine will come, and this pandemic will end. And also, pandemics like this will come. So we must be mentally prepared for those things, and by learning lessons from this pandemic. And also, we should learn to adapt with the changing times and technologies. And the leaders, especially CEOs, have to prepare for adversity, and they should embrace uncertainty to build agile organizations globally. This is what I strongly feel about.
That's great. Those are great tips and great advice on how to navigate. And I agree with you. I think even though it's been 100 plus years since the Spanish flu, since we've had a pandemic of this nature, I agree with you. I don't think that we're going to have to wait another 100 years before we face something similar to this. So the lessons that we're learning from this and the techniques and things that we can do, I hope that we will be better prepared for the next one to be able to implement things faster so we can minimize the spread of whatever that happens to be. So one, we can save lives, and two, keep the disruption that this pandemic has caused to a minimum. So great stuff. And thank you for being on the show. I mean, where can people find out more about you and these books?
I'm available online. If people search on Google, Professor MS Rao. My name is Professor MS Rao. M means motivation, S means success, RAO Rao. So when they type on search engines, they can find my name comes automatically. My books are available on Amazon, and I have a blog by name Vision 2030 1 Million Global Leaders, where I share free knowledge with the world, quotations, articles I post regularly. So they can subscribe to my blog, Vision 2030 1 Million Global Leaders. That's the blog. I'm available on LinkedIn. They can follow me, and I have a Twitter account. They can follow me. I'm on Instagram. I have a YouTube channel where I post videos. So I'm available on social media platforms. I'm very active, and I have got a couple of followers also. So people can easily find my books. My books are available on Amazon. So only thing they have to search Professor MS Rao plus Amazon. They can find my books and my blog. They can follow.
And I'll definitely have all that information in the show notes. So, Professor, thank you again for your time today. Appreciate you, and thank you for writing these books. It's going to make the world a much better place. So, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you very much for giving me this wonderful opportunity.